Hello dear lute friends. Today is the new little lesson from the Luteduo. Before I start, I would like to thank you all very much for your likes, beautiful comments, and your subscriptions and support of the Luteduo channel, for buying CDs, for joining the lute class. And I would like to make a little announcement that those of you who would like to see us in person, now it's a little bit easier because the geography is somewhat widened. So you can meet us on a regular basis in the Netherlands, in The Hague or in Leiden. You can read about it in the description. And today's lesson is about difficulties in the left hand on the lute, on the multi-string lutes, and on the theorbo. First of all, I would like to talk about the physics of this instrument and about how it was built and how it was played. So again, let us not forget that if it posed so many difficulties as it is posing today, nobody would play the lute. I'm absolutely sure about it. The lute was played by people who never experienced classical guitar. Most of that people never imagined that there could be a single strung instrument. And this way, this instrument was built. Also, the instrument was built to play on gut strings. Maybe there are many of us who heard about gut strings but never played gut strings. Maybe it makes sense to order one course, let's say the third course of gut, and try it once on the lute to realize how far all the string ideas we have when using synthetic strings from what it is, because I'm not really advocating playing all on gut strings. It's a beautiful thing for some people and maybe for other people it's not. I'm just trying to tell what it is. So the feature of the gut string, which all synthetic strings are missing, is the stiffness. The gut string is breakable, it's not stretchable. It is stiff, and that's a very important physical feature which we do not possess on any of the synthetic strings, whatever they are. The gut strings were in combination with the gut frets, because sometimes we see from our online students, from other people we meet, we see instrument with plastic frets. This is totally disaster because plastic is very slippery. So what is important in today's lesson is why some people who have really good playing on guitar experience big difficulties, for instance, on the lute. The gut strings together with the gut frets make a fantastic combination which prevents the vertical motion of the strings in the left hand, even if they're low tensioned, which is a fashion sometimes today to make the lute with very low tension. It's also a matter of taste, but that increases this problem. If synthetic strings on gut, even on gut frets, I'm not talking about plastic, low tension, that very much increases the vertical motion of the strings. Often we see that the curves on the nut are very close to each other. Maybe it is historical. Again, on some historical drawings we see that they are very close. Again, gut strings could allow this work very well. On our lutes we usually have like 2.7 millimeters on the double course, or 3 millimeters, for instance, on the sixth course a little bit more on the 7th course and a little bit more on the 8th course, so that the strings don't collide. And also we don't have this problem. So this is about the physical part of it, which really should be observed and understood. That's my feeling. And now talking about technical part of what we're doing. On the classical guitar, for instance, this problem which I described almost doesn't exist, because the tension of the strings is quite high. The strings are single, and which allows us to put sometimes not very correct positions and adjust them while we apply them on the fingerboard. This is something the guitar is much more forgiving than the lute, because for instance, we put the position on the guitar, we already have a couple of fingers correct, then we adjust other fingers, the fingers which are already on the strings supported, and we somehow get by. Or maybe it's a habit sometimes. On the lute, this is absolutely a way to a problem, because the position when we apply it has to be very clean. It has actually to form almost before we put it on the fingerboard. Otherwise, if we try to adjust it already being on the strings, especially on low tension strings, on synthetical strings, we almost are asking for a problem, because a vertical motion is much stronger in any event, and also the double strings sometimes also come closer. So this all makes us play really not as clean as we would like to. Another part of it, which we probably talked in other lessons, is the understanding of the fingers of the left hand, how they are really working. We have different fingers. From the very first steps on guitar or on the lute, we already think about the first two fingers, because the most simple exercises are about these first two fingers. So we're kind of preconditioned already unconsciously. We feel that, oh, okay, maybe I get this right. It's already much is done. But actually, these two fingers, the fourth finger and the third finger, are first of all short, second weak, third it is connected to the same ligament here, and it's not very free. In fact, when we are putting the position, we should think first of all how these two fingers are coming, because the big ones and the good guys, the strong guys, will adjust very well, but these ones, they will never adjust. And this also tells very much on how we feel on the frets. So also when changing position, maybe the positions are not connected. Okay, they're not connected, there's nothing in common. But what can be in common? The shape can be in common. So when leaving the position here, for instance, and knowing the positions here, so already when left the position, we already think of the shape we are going to take here. Thus, we will be much more precise in the left hand, and we will not have very much the situation when we have to adjust the position already being on the strings, and also avoid the vertical motion, which tells so much on how we are playing with the left hand. So this is the very important part of the technique which I wanted to mention today. Also, when we are not perfectly fine on the position, then we think, oh, I should press harder. This is actually the last thing to do, because of course in the concert when you mess up the position, there is no other way than to try to press harder to get it sound. But when we practice, this really should not be happening, because we should press as much as needed to have things right. So like on classical guitar we have 6 strings, right? And higher tension. So here we have lower tension, which makes things kind of easier, but we have double strings, first of all, and we have this vertical motion which comes next to it. So the cleanliness of the application, the cleanliness of the position is absolutely important. And also remember how you put your left hand into position if you play with a belt, if you play without a belt. Any position, we think, Anna and me, that any position we play should be coming in such a way that these 2 fingers are in the most optimal situation. So not like this, for instance, because when you raise the elbow, the pinky finger becomes shorter, especially when you play with the belt, especially when your neck is kind of high. Then you really should feel the relation between the elbow and the pinky fingers, the pinky finger and these 2 weak guys. It also tells very much on the application, on the position itself, how it is being formed and how it comes onto the lute. I hope this little bit of information was helpful. I wish you all the very best, good practice, good development on the lute, and good steps towards playing high repertoire of our instrument. Bye bye. That's been Anton.